Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat.
Resolves.
Now, before you attack
Does
me,
anyone have an answer?
well played.
Good game.
Hello, Artificers. I'm Jumbo Commander, and today we have more Dominaria Legends. Today we have Jhoira Weatherlight Captain. Jhoira is 2 blue-red for a 3/3 legendary human artificer, and whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. Just a reminder, historic spells are artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. So, what is going on with Jhoira? Well, Jhoira is the izzet commander we've been waiting for. It's all artifacts. But wait a second, maybe it's not all artifacts. Maybe we can play around with more historic value. And when we have a commander that draws so many cards, we have to wonder, how good is this? I know this is good, but is this competitive good? And when you think about all the competitiveness, we gotta think about some combo because I've seen some crazy shenanigans with Jhoira. So let's jump right in, and the first thing I want to talk about is really how good Jhoira is. And really, can this helm a competitive artifacts deck? First thing I want to start off with is a disclaimer. I know competitive EDH, and I've played it a bit, but I do not play this every weekend. And when you're talking about top tier competitive games, you need to be up to date to know everything. So I've included a competitive deck list that I made in the description, but don't take that as gospel word. Don't take that as the perfect thing. You know, if you're in competitive, that you need to tweak that. You need to adjust it a little bit. And there's going to be some things that are less than perfect in that deck list when you see a commander for the very first time. So with that disclaimer out of the way, I think one of the most critical pieces to Jhoira is going to be those 0-drop artifacts. Mox Diamond, Chrome Mox, Mox Opal, and the new Mox Amber. We have a lot of things to say about Mox Amber, but I think that it's perfect in this deck because Jhoira rewards you playing your artifacts after she's on the battlefield, making Mox Amber useful. I'm excited to play Mox Amber in decks that maybe are a little bit combo-centric, like my Zada Hedron Grinder deck, where you draw a bunch of cards and you really want to deploy your extra mana when you have Zada on the battlefield. Or in this Jhoira deck, or maybe in a very aggressive deck, like an Akiri Lineslinger. We could honestly talk a lot about this card because it's so polarizing. It's amazing free mana, or it just sits there and does nothing. But in this deck, having a 0 cost thing is actually pretty good. So if we go on to other ones, Mana Crypt, Lotus Petal, Everflowing Chalice, we can even go on to Welding Jar, Mishra's Bauble, Urza's Bauble. All of these can sort of generate card draw with our commander on the battlefield. Heck, we might not even need to tap the Mox Amber or crack the Lotus Petal. We'll just generate value by playing them, and then playing them again. Paradoxical Outcome is a great card in Vintage where you can pick up all your Moxes and draw cards for them and then play them all again. And we can kind of reproduce that a little bit in Commander. But honestly, our Commander makes any bounce crazy. Chain of Vapor, Hurkyl's Recall, Retract, Rebuild, all of these will let us pick up all of our artifacts only to play them again, and in combination with our commander, that means we're drawing tons of cards, and we're generating storm count by doing this. And so we could storm off, we could gut shot. I don't know if that's enough to clear out the entire table, you gotta really have an engine going for that. Or we could Mind's Desire, that's really fun, but what competitive EDH players have been falling back on more and more often is Aetherflux Reservoir. Because even if you draw it later on in your combo and you deploy it, it still counts all the other spells you cast that turn, and so sometimes all you need is a few more spells after you draw it, and then bam, 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 you've won the game. Walking Ballista is great because if we have a way to generate infinite mana, we can pour it into the Ballista. So it doesn't necessarily win off of the Storm I've been talking about, but some of the mana generation that this loop produces, and other combos produce as well. I'm going to talk about some of the combos that could go in competitive, but then I'm going to talk about other ones that definitely drift into the more casual, so you can kind of pick and choose the combo that fits this deck best. I want to talk about one specifically first, which is Words of Wind. Oh, I love this so much, which might lead you to believe that this is not as competitive, but Words of Wind is 2 and a blue. It's an enchantment, and you can pay 1. The next time you would draw a card this turn, each player returns a permanent he or she controls to his owner's hand instead. So if you have Jhoira out on the battlefield and you play some mana rocks, then you have the ability to go crazy because the mana rock cast will trigger Jhoira and you don't have to draw. You can instead ask everyone to bounce something and then you can bounce something back again. It's so cool. You do need a little bit more than a single mana rock. And by the way, this is an old school card. It just says permanent. It doesn't say non-land. So you just watch as everyone picks everything up and you're just like, I'm still here. And then at the very end of the combo, you're just like, oh, and I'll draw an extra card because, you know, I'm done bouncing everything now. Oh, I love it. It's a little bit janky though. This might not be going into the competitive deck. One thing that can go in the competitive deck is a Chain Veil Teferi combo. But then again, now that I'm thinking about it, this Teferi combo goes best when one of those is in your command zone. So I don't know if it's great in the 99. I mean, if I'm just making a really good multiplier deck, I think it'd go great in the 99. You draw a card off to Teferi. It interacts great with all of these artifacts that tap for a ton of mana. The Chain Veil's great too because it gives you more activations of Planeswalkers, and Planeswalkers are legendary things that are historic that you can draw cards off of. So this seems to match really well with the kind of strategy I want. Let's keep going with another combo. How about a Paradox Engine, Master Transmuter, and there's that Mox Amber again. Actually, a lot of cards could stand in for Mox Amber in this situation. But honestly, it's just Paradox Engine. That thing is just a combo engine in itself. So maybe it goes in the deck and you accidentally stumble onto combinations. And honestly, Master Transmuter is just fun. It's awesome. So this is the kind of combo you don't necessarily go for, but you have in the deck because it's cool, and then you might end up with it eventually. With Jhoira on the battlefield, this loop will draw your whole deck. I particularly like Efficient Construction, which lets you get 1/1 Thopters, which I think is a little bit more interesting. Just another combo that could make it into the deck. I wanted a Grand Architect in the deck because it lets you ramp things out really well. And I think that it really matches in this blue-red strategy. And then if that's in there, I kind of got to add Pilipala because that just makes infinite mana. And we've got things to do with infinite mana. But here is the combo that I really like, which is Microsynth Lattice and Hellkite Tyrant. Everything is an artifact, which by the way is just great. I love making everything an artifact. And Hellkite Tyrant says, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 20 or more artifacts, you win the game. This is super City's Blessing. You gotta get 20 of them, but you know, you're just gonna win the game. Or what's even better is if you smack someone with a Hellkite Tyrant and you just take all their permanents. Because Microsynth Lattice makes them all artifacts. These are just fun cards though. Microsynth Lattice is kind of a combo piece, but I'd play Hellkite Tyrant, smack people, take their artifacts. I love it. And so we've kind of devolved a little bit. We started off with a very combo, competitive centric, and now we've really degenerated into ridiculous stuff. No one in competitive plays a 12 mana 2-card combo that wins on your upkeep. So now we've kind of transitioned into what else Jhoira can do. But before I leave competitive, remember, you want all of that low, stormy artifacts. You want disruption, you want interaction, and part of me is thinking, can this really work? Is this any better than any of the other combos that exist? Especially because, does the commander need to be on the battlefield for this to happen? The commander's a 4-drop. The commander's vulnerable. When your opponents can see it coming, the best combos can be tutored up and searched for and then deployed. And this is missing. Black, I mean, I don't know how this will work in competitive. I think it's on the fringes, honestly. So instead of worrying about competitive, we can let other people tune that to death. Let's worry about how Jhoira can literally just go into your deck right now. And I honestly think that's by going into your collection and pulling out legendaries. I think it's going to be so much fun. You just grab whatever cool historic spell you have and throw it into a deck. Vendilion Click, Venser, Shaper Savant. These are great cards. Imagine if they draw you a card as well. I mentioned some planeswalkers earlier. Let's just embrace planeswalkers. Ugin and Tezzeret and Ralzeric and Dak Faden. I love Dak Faden. Dak Faden's great. And actually, now that I'm looking at some of these, I am seeing that artifacts are supported even with these supporting planeswalkers. Tezzeret seeks up an artifact. Ugin can wipe the board away from everything but artifacts. Dak Faden steals theirs, lets you pitch things in the graveyard. Artifacts love being in the graveyard. Ralzeric untaps your huge mana rocks. See, all of these work so well together. And there are plenty of other legendaries that support an artifact theme. Padim, Council of Innovation, Pia and Kiran Nalaar, the new Karn, Scion of Urza. And actually, Karn's minus ability could just put out embarrassingly large creatures. And there are more legends to support this artifact theme. Arkham Dagson and Muzio Visionary Architect are awesome artificers, and they're so interesting. Arkham, I think, might be better used and better suited to his own combo deck, but you just slot him right in here. And Muzio is criminally underplayed and super fun. Again, slot him right in here. And just deploying these guys can let you draw a card. And now that we're talking about artifacts a little bit more, I've been looking for a place to put Storm the Vault. And this could be a great place. On the backside of Storm the Vault is a Tolarian Academy. It taps for blue for every artifact you have. Oh, so good. And mechanized production has been one of my favorites. It can just win you the game. That's the kind of way I really want to win the game, is by putting out Soul Ring after Soul Ring after Soul Ring until I just win. But there's other strategies too. I mean, I just keep going. Feldon of Third Path, a legendary creature, pulls things out of your graveyard. Same thing with Duretti Scrap Savant, Slowbad Goblin Tinkerer, another legendary artificer, and a sacrifice outlet. So it gets things into the graveyard, and Feldon and Duretti get them back. Same thing with the Scrap Trawler and the Scrap Mastery, all of the Scrap Goblin Welder. We get this engine of artifacts going, and so many of them are artifacts, are planeswalkers, are legendary creatures. And we can just deploy junk. Scrap Trawler, like I mentioned, but also Commander Sphere. Ramps you, then goes to the graveyard so you can get it right back again. Ichor Wellspring. 2 colorless mana. When you cast it with Jhoira, you draw a card, and then when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. Then you sacrifice it, you draw a card, you get it back, you draw some more. It's crazy, and it's just this stupid little artifact, and that's what this deck can be full of. Stupid little artifacts that come together to make something bigger. And what I want them to make is an army. I want to play March of the Machines and turn all my artifacts into attacking creatures. I want to play the Antiquities War and turn them into 5/5, swinging at everyone. I want Karn in here too, to be making creatures that are crazy big and attacking people. I want Microsynth Lattice in here to make everything an artifact, to turn them all into creatures that kills all of my opponent's lands and makes all of my things huge monsters to attack everyone. That's how I want to win, and that's what I want to do with this deck. Throw the legendaries I have in. I want to throw in all these great artifacts, these dinky little things that I can deploy into an entire army. And that has been my deck tech. It's been weird. At the beginning, we were talking competitive. Then we started talking about combos, and then our combos got weird. And now we're marching of the machines. We're bringing the Antiquities War to life. Yeah, that's what I like, is that Jhoira can fit so many different strategies, from hyper competitive to jank. And that's why I think that this commander is going to be super popular, and that's why I think you should build one of her. Just throw cards in there and see what it's like to draw cards every time you play them. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, please consider subscribing to my channel, hitting that bell icon, but more importantly, there's going to be more deck techs, so many more deck techs. I'm pumping them out because Dominaria has me so excited. I hope you're excited too. I'll see you down in the comments and in my next video. Bye-bye.